Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Scott Clark. Today we're going to do a little bit of a review. It's that time of year, Dave.
Boxing Day.
Boxing Day. Did you have a good Christmas, by the way?
Well, you won't know yet.
This is the theater of it. Like, we're doing it well before Christmas.
We're recording this before Boxing Day. Don't be silly.
I'm still full from all the turkey and awesome stuffing.
I have gas.
All right. Well, nothing changes. Nothing changes. Before we get into that, I want to, if you're watching this on YouTube or maybe on Kojiko or listening to it, I want to encourage everybody to support the Echo Network by going online. If you're on Spotify, YouTube, maybe Apple Podcasts, and giving us a like, giving us a review, giving us any type of feedback at all. It helps the Echo Network and it helps us grow. And most importantly, we're growing in sponsorship, and we encourage you to support the people that are supporting us, because we can't do it without their support. And if you support them, the whole ecosystem works, Dave.
I get a little dopamine rush every time I see a like.
Yeah, it's nice, and we love feedback, and we're going to talk about that today. There's a few stories that we want to talk about that's happened over the last little while. We're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about some of the feedback we received. But first, we want to throw it over to today's title sponsor, and that is Twigg's Coffee Roasters.
North Bay Echo is proud to partner with Twig's Coffee Roasters, a part of the community since 1995. Twig's offers a wide selection of quality beans, fresh roasted in-house every day. Find your favorite specialty drinks at our espresso bar, rejuvenate with freshly squeezed juice, or treat yourself to mouth-watering selections from our gourmet deli. And don't forget our irresistible fresh baked goods, including uncompromising gluten-free options. Twig's has 5 locations to serve you, from North Bay to Sturgeon Falls to Sudbury. Order online for pickup at twigs.ca. And coming soon, you'll be able to order fresh roasted coffee beans direct to your doorstep from our distribution center in North Bay.
I actually like the different co-hosts that come in on the Echo Essentials podcast. I think Stu does a great job. Dave Mendocino, yourself. I like the different, banter that happens and different perspectives that happen. Most recently, you had Stu campaign in from Bay Today, and Chris Main talking about Cassellholme and Cassellholme. Mm-hmm. What's some of the feedback you got from that show?
Well, the Echo newsletter that I did the week before Christmas had a letter to the editor from the operations manager from Cassellholme, and I was basically trying to promote the good that they do and the positive stuff that's going on, and a little bit of pushback on how Councillor Chris Main framed it all. Mm-hmm. But not too much. Mostly she concentrated on trying to get out the positive stuff that they do.
Like, it was interesting. You guys thoroughly talked about it. Stu said at the end about, I got a much better perspective, but I was still kind of stuck a bit after listening to it about why he was voted off the island. Because in my mind, like, I've been on lots of different boards, and that's the power of a board, right? There's differing of opinions, and then you reach consensus as a board, then everybody is rowing the same way. But that didn't happen in this case. Does the letter to the editor explain that a little bit better?
No, she didn't go into that much detail on that. But it was good to have that feedback and to have somebody address it. I'd much rather actually getting somebody in here to talk about it, mm-hmm. about the real sort of stuff, either Jamie Lowry as the executive director or Larry Fold, a new member of the board this year and chair. But any feedback's good. The other feedback that I got were from people that actually, from the council's side, that are Chris Main's sort of supporters, thought that he did an excellent job of walking the line of being informative and careful, and just sort of basically given a fair, from his point of view, recounting of what happened, because it is very complex and there's a lot of moving parts on that one. A lot of moving parts. But I thought he actually did a fairly good job. There was one part where he went on for about 20 minutes, and it's kind of hard to listen to all that. Stu and I, like, we've been following it quite a bit. So even our eyes were kind of glazing over, but but he had to say it in his words, right? So that's the good part. He got to say it in his word. He got to have his say. And if anybody doesn't like that, they can come on here and have their say as far as for the perspective of Cassellholme and Cassellholme.
What would it be like if we had Larry Fold on? I don't know the man. I've seen him. I think I've said hi to him. But he's like a bit of a lightning rod in the city. Like, people are genuinely have an opinion. If they know him, they have an opinion about him. Yeah, and it's usually one way or the other.
Well,
does he actually? Like, I know he's online a lot. What's
my opinion of him is that the way he goes about things is divisive and kind of rude. And his posts on the Vision 2029 or 2027 Facebook page can be very more toxic than necessary. And that's coming from Soapbox and Dave Dale.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't think he's very, he has no finesse. As far as I can tell.
Why is it?
But he in fairness, he has a strong opinion about how things should be done. He has quite a bit of experience. He's been on several boards. I'm not sure if everybody enjoyed being on the boards with him, because he's hard-nosed when it comes to certain things. And that's not a bad thing sometimes.
So you and Stu have been journalists for many, many years, decades of experience, so much of experience locally. And I had someone approach me that you know very well, Stu knows very well, that was quite animated with me about why the media is not following up with the whole Cassellholme, Castle Arms. And this high-profile person was kind of intimating that you should be going to freedom of information. People need to know what's really going on. And I'm looking at you now, but you probably know who I'm talking about. Just wondering, when someone, I'll say of that level, approaches a journalist, is there a reason why you wouldn't touch something like that? Or maybe you have looked at it as like, you know what, we get stuff like that all the time. It's not worth going down that path. It's just a rabbit hole that's not going to go anywhere. I don't know. That's why I'm...
Cassellholme and Castle Arms are what we call a quagmire.
Okay.
And not very many people are willing to pay an investigative journalist what would be necessary to get the information and do that research. It's a economic thing. It is a failure, basically, of not having the infrastructure and the economy for local media to actually dedicate enough time to dig in there. You know automatically that they have a lawyer sitting in the meetings most of the time, right? They have a representative. They're very from what from the board meetings and the different people that have been involved. You better be careful, and so you're going to have to take time, and it's going to be and to what end? What end,
yeah.
Right?
So I see what you're saying. So they're well protected.
Yeah.
And if...
They're fortified.
Yeah, and if someone reported something, they might flex their muscles and say, look, no, you're out of line and we're going to, potentially sue you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's been made pretty clear.
So let's go back to, say, traditional journalism days, right? Back to the old nugget days when there's 40 reporters or whatever. There was lots of reporters and stuff like that. And let's say that you wanted to, hey, I would like to dive in deeper. Mm-hmm. First of all, how do you get the permission to spend the time? And then what is the process for when you are doing a story? Who does it have to go by before it actually hit the paper? Just so, because we look at Bay Today has 4 people? 3, maybe 3.5. Cogeco has 3. Like, there's not like a capacity, as you say, for doing investigative journalism because it takes time.
Yeah.
So tell me how it used to be and how difficult it is today.
Well, it comes down to risk, reward, and payoff, right? As far as, you kind of want to know that you're going to find something for sure if you're going to dedicate a couple of reporters to investigate it, right? If we were in the newsroom in 2005 in the Nugget, where we had pretty fulsome staff, if we thought that this was something of interest to the community and that there was something there and it was worth it, we dedicate a couple reporters to it for a few days, and then over a couple of weeks try to piece it together. There'd be probably some features about how important Cassellholme is, like the operations manager's letter to the editor. She's pointing out the good and the really, and then separate the differences, because you basically have 2 very different things, and that's what Chris was trying to say. Is like one's long-term care and they can't do anything else, and the other one's affordable senior housing, and 2 very different markets. And the Cassellholme one is a little bit more free to do what it needs to do as a nonprofit, and they can expand. They can do those type of things. Cassellholme has to get provincial approval for beds, or increasing the beds, and how it operates, and it has to really find ways. And I think that they have. Actually, I'm not as convinced as others that there's gold in them their hills as far as Cassellholme and Cassellholme. Now, Dave Mendocino is adamant that there was something funky that went on, and the rules weren't followed to create the other Cassellholme board. That it was done in a way that he thought, but
isn't that like part of the, how do I phrase it? I was going to say battle, but it's not a battle. But there's, as we mentioned about Chris, there's differing of opinions. Then at the end, a decision's made. Then you move on. But if it doesn't go your way, there's a little bit of bitterness that it should have went this way, and this is why I think it should have went this way. So there's some passion involved. Mm-hmm. Let me say this: that Cheryl's mom is in Cassellholme now, right? I marvel at the work that they do. I'm guessing the lack of resources they have, and the reason I say that is like those people are busy in there, and individuals that are living there, those long-term care, they need support, and they're doing everything they can, man. Like, it's God
They're
bless.
functioning like a hospital without the resources that a hospital has.
Like these personal support workers, God bless them. Like what they do, and like we wouldn't be able to as a family. We tried to maybe take that risk on, but then we realized like that's when I say risk, it's like
take on that responsibility.
It's a massive responsibility. If her mom in her 90s falls and slips, or anything can happen. Like they know what to do. They know how to look after elderly people. So I think it's fantastic that there's affordable senior housing, that they're growing the Cassellholme. And whoever's listening now, if your parents aren't in long-term care, they're going there. They're probably going to end up there, and it's important that you follow what goes on. And these institutions are well managed and well funded, because
are they?
Well, but this is why we should have these conversations.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've never had a parent in long-term care. My mom or dad never made it there, right? And but I just I'm like, how do we support them more? How you can see that they're just trying to hang on, right?
Well, it is a very touchy subject too. I've heard a lot of people, complain about the care of their loved one at almost every place in town.
But you could say that they're not funded properly. But you could say that about hospitals.
Yes, you can say that about hospitals, and people are saying about hospitals and healthcare in general, right?
I watch them in there, like being in the hospitals and stuff. Like, I think I don't think people have their slippers up on the desk not doing anything. These people are working.
I posted, there's a new musician, or relatively new. He's like a folk singer, and he's doing these really kind of cool, folksy songs about real issues like the United Healthcare, that CEO that was assassinated, basically. But and a very, very split opinion on whether or not that was okay to be a vigilante sort of, and to take it out on these overpaid CAOs that and these companies that are starving and killing people, basically, for profit, right? And so I posted that on my Facebook page, and a couple of my friends posted about, well, you know what? I would love to be able to pay for care because I'm waiting 3 years now, and I still haven't got an appointment, the first consultative for a specialist I need. Same with another friend of mine. He got on there. He says, I'm not so sure about the American system, but I just want to be able to get a doctor when I need a doctor. I can afford it. I can do it, and I wish there was an option. And then you try to explain to people, well, you voted Conservative and they run the province and they're in charge of healthcare. They're strangling it the best they can, although they just funded the hospital with annualized money that they need. Well, that annualized money was needed for 5-6 years, right? So it's a little late for some. They've died.
But you can also say, hey, when the Liberals were in, I don't think the hospital system was working perfectly then.
Oh no, sir! I got a real bone of contention, bone to pick with the Liberals. They basically screwed me over. That's why my leg's as bad as it is.
So it was during a Liberal government.
Dalton McGuinty canceled elective surgeries the summer I was trying to get my leg fixed because it was botched the first time.
Really?
2 years after, and I was going to have a what do they call it? Anyways, they're going to redo it, right? Because it was terrible. Yeah. So because it wasn't funded properly, their answer was to cancel elective surgeries. Well, it wasn't so elective, I didn't think, but I never could get it.
I was at a social services conference a few weeks ago, and it was really interesting. There was all these assistant deputy ministers that were up on this panel talking about social services. So there was someone from not just housing, but also mental health, childcare. Like they were all up there, all the assistant deputy ministers, right? All up there. And then I was really blown away. It was one of the executives in social services from Cochrane stood up. And I'll never be as eloquent as he was, but he said, you know what? I don't believe that you're saying, I don't believe that you believe what you're saying to all of us right here. So it's 47 municipalities, all in social services. We know you don't believe that. And for whatever reason, you're not listening to the people on the ground, and you're not listening to science when it comes to these things. And so he went on, and he wasn't mad or anything like that, and they were silent up at the front. But his point is this: it's such a difficult subject. So everything from homelessness, social services, all these different things that we won't listen to science, and we won't listen to, I think, some of the smartest people. For instance, we feel, I shouldn't say we feel. There's many people that feel that, if you have to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get back into the game and get working and pay your bills, right? And we're going to give you a little money to get there. But it isn't enough. It's complex. Like, one of the things I love about what we're doing is we've had a number of people in here discussing a number of different things. And one that was, well, there's many that blew my mind. It was, what was the gentleman who's an advocate for the homeless?
Shane.
He was in here, right? He's been homeless. He's an advocate for, when he explained, and I hope you can go back to, northbayecho.ca, find that interview, listen to Shane, because Shane talked about the cycle of how difficult it is to get back on your feet again. And you don't have enough money, and you don't have any credit rating to actually get an apartment, to get off the street, it's like, oh my gosh, it's insane.
The cards are stacked against you.
Your cards are stacked against you, and there is a political, I think, barrier to even suggest to give people a living wage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a massive hurdle. But I believe in other countries, like some of the Nordic countries and European, like they have these guarantees that everybody has housing and there's living wages. And when you go there, it doesn't look like it looks here today. And but I think that's politically a massive hurdle to cross.
For sure. I know there's a lot of people in somewhat conflict over the concept of chronic welfare, or basically chronic. And I say chronic because it's not enough, but it's more than they could actually get for themselves by working. So it's just kind of, you don't want to get off. Disability is the same way. Like there's people that would try to go forward and improve themselves and go another direction. But if you let go of the life raft, which is sinking, you're going to definitely drown. Or possibly, right? So they don't have the confidence that they'll be picked up again because they've been in the system and they know what the system's like, and it's terrible for many people, but it's not something that they want to can actually leave, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's not easy street on the system. I think there's many people that believe that once it's like, this is easy street. I don't have to work. I just get paid every month. And
yeah,
I call bullshit on that.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not, and you know what? There is probably a segment of people that take it, but the science and data will show you it's a tiny, tiny amount of people.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I think from a political standpoint, there's many voting people that think it's a large group of people. And that's not the science. That's not the data that's showing that. And politicians, it's not appetizing for the voting public to hear that.
No, well, it's you're going to lose votes on people's long-standing sort of principles that they have, right?
So let's keep jumping around. I want to talk about one thing that you were on. I believe Mendo was on with you.
Yeah.
And you talked about the Gathering Place. It was the Gathering Place, right? Which I thought was an excellent interview, by the way. It was really, really Peter Gregory, can't remember the woman's name, but I thought
Alicia Smith, I think.
Yeah, I believe they explained things quite well. We didn't get to some of the heart of it all, but one of the things you said was about, how DSAB needs to fund it. I disagree with you.
Okay.
That's not DSAB's mandate. And this is where, so they're pulling money from, you can correct me here, but DSAB's mandate is not to fund soup kitchens.
Social services.
Yeah. So now they get put in a situation where they have to pull money from somewhere. Like they don't have money coming out of their yin-yang, right? They have...
Well, the province should fund them properly to do things like this.
There you go.
Yeah.
But not DSAB.
Well, the province should fund DSAB to do it.
I totally agree with that statement.
Well, it's the same thing.
Well, it's not the same thing. They have to... DSAB, just because we work in that space quite often...
Yeah.
DSAB's juggling all these DSABs and social services, those 47... are juggling all sorts of things to try and make it all work because the system in the province, and I'm not pointing at one particular party or another, it's not appetizing to the voting public, and they almost want, let's just keep pushing that away.
Well, no, they want volunteers and churches and the community at large to take care of something. Mm-hmm. That they don't want to fund.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. But I know you were saying the same thing. The different social services that we deal with across the province, and like I mentioned about the executive director from, I think it was the executive director from Cochrane, like they want the province to do better, whoever's in power.
Well, I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Right. So it's not like DSAB doesn't want to fund these sort of things. They're doing everything they can they're squeezing every buck out to figure out how to make it work in a very, very difficult situation.
Well, then to clarify it, when I say DSAB, I'm talking province. The province dictates what they pay DSAB, dictates what they can do, what they can't do. Really, right?
Right.
Throws whatever they curveballs they want at them to adjust the system so they can squeeze and keep pennies. But it should be funded through DSAB.
Right. But it's also a political suicide to stand up and talk like that to the government. For many of these people, I've had many people in high level in social services saying, I can't wait till I retire. Then I get to really say what I want to say. Mm-hmm. They are tremendous advocates for not just the homeless, but people on social services. And they live it day to day and figure it and do their best to move it forward in a system that's really not perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
did we solve anything there?
No. It's one of the things I think in doing this is that I'm actually quite proud about how we're able to have these longer conversations. We bring in some experts, like even the PFAS thing that you started. You said, hey, let's do this thing on PFAS, right? Which they're working on it right now and taking all the brown lands up. But then you brought in a farmer with eggs. Then we were able to get is it Karen from the city, the head engineer?
Karen Pratt.
Super smart. Oh my gosh, she was so smart. But having these longer conversations about how complex this is, why it's a challenge to fix these things, what they're doing in the meantime. I think we often think that there's black and white answers when there's so much gray. And these longer conversations are important.
It's working. And people are saying that they appreciate being able to get more nuance and they see people speaking about a topic in a little bit more depth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So no, it is the right way to go about that for sure.
So we want this to grow. We want to thank the number of sponsors that have stepped forward that believe in what we're doing as well. And they also benefit because you, the viewer and listener, will often reach out to them and support what they're doing as well. I even bought a truck from North Bay Toyota, one of our most recent great sponsors. And I need to say this. It's time to Toyota at North Bay Toyota. That's what the live commercial says.
I have a Toyota story.
Do you?
Yeah, just this week, actually. I was Googling the Toyota Tundra.
That's what I have. I love it.
I end up in these scrolling sort of quagmires or doom scrolling about people using chainsaws and cutting down trees. I like to learn good technique. And this one I watched was an American guy that does bulk wood. And he had filled up his Toyota Tundra with wood. And he was saying it was 6.5 foot box. And I was under the impression that you would be hard. It would be very hard to fill a box with a cord of wood, face cord. And then if you did, trucks shouldn't have that much weight in the back. So I actually, because I'm dumb like this, I put a comment under the video saying I did the square inches of the box, and it's below 32 square feet. So that would be pretty tough to do. A good thing you're rounding it to make up the difference because you got small sticks that, rather than bigger ones. They take up more space.
Oh, there's your phone, Davey. Someone's calling in the middle of a podcast.
Toyota's saying, hey,
wait a second. We can fit that. Okay, we silenced it.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's Dave's ring.
Yeah. So anyway, so the guy said, well, did you know it was a 6.5 foot box? And I said, yeah, I did. But actually, I'm glad you responded because I just did a little bit more. It's a 20.7 inch wall, right? So if you do all the square inches and you take into account the wheel wells, you could fit a face cord in there with a little bit of a round, right? You could. And then I was saying, well, I don't know about the weight. I'm told that, a face cord of wood, seasoned, is between about 1,200 pounds. That's a lot of weight for most. That's a small pickup truck, basically. Not the smallest.
This is so nerdy.
Yeah.
Are you getting to a point?
Well, anyways, so I talked to my mechanic about it, and he goes, you know what? Actually, the Tundras are stronger, and they can take more weight than some of the other pickup trucks.
Oh, really?
And
well, the suspension and everything?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually, so I was informed, and I was schooled, and my assumptions were incorrect, and so Toyota Tundra won that one.
Well, this is perfect tie-in because you can ask North Bay Toyota about their amazing lease deals on their 2025 Toyota Tundra Double Cab SR four-wheel drive. Oh, SR four-wheel drive. That's it. They have incredible capability, incredible technology, and refinement. And for an old guy like me, I think you've been in my truck. They have these beautiful screens in them, like they're big screens, bigger than the one on my TV at house. So you can actually see everything when you're going and using it. So if you're an SUV lover, take advantage of the limited shipment they have of 2025 RAV4s and discover the perfect blend of style, comfort, and efficiency in a compact SUV that ignites your desire to explore. It's time to Toyota at North Bay Toyota. They're at 640 McEwen or online at northbaytoyota.com for full details. Please support Toyota because Toyota is sponsoring and supporting us, and we thank them for that.
Sports aren't just what we do, they're who we are. Source for Sports North Bay is your advocate, your local support system, and your biggest fan. 1321 Fisher Street has grown from a place where knowledgeable experts can help you find exactly the gear you need. To the hotbed of team uniforms, apparel and fanwear, to a community stronghold for all the things that truly matter to you and your family's sports journey. We love helping you find your first pair of skates, as much as we relish supporting local leagues, teams, and athletes. Wherever your sports journey takes you, make sure you visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street so we can help you along your way.
I'm surprised how many people don't know about Sweetman Gardens that have lived here like their life. I thought everybody knows about Sweetman Gardens.
I haven't met that many people that didn't know about it. I've met a lot of people that haven't been there.
Yeah.
There's a couple, I guess. But Sweetman's Gardens is sort of like, some people think it's, like Murray Sweetman didn't have a whole lot of supporters when he was a teacher. He had a bad reputation.
Yeah, wasn't he? I think in one of the interviews, he was a little bit cranky. Didn't you have to ask permission to go or something like that? Or?
A little bit more than that too. I'm not, I disparage someone who's no longer here to defend himself, but he had a lot of detractors. So every time they hear about Sweetman's Gardens, they're like, well, they swear, they curse his name.
Really?
Yeah. Not everybody was impressed with him.
What do you think is going to be? What's big coming up in 2025 for us now?
Well, Trudeau's going to step down.
Whoa.
There's going to be a Liberal leadership review or whatever, campaign. That's going to be a gong show.
That's going to be a gong show.
Oh, for sure.
I think if he doesn't step down, they're going to get wiped out.
Well, they're already going to get wiped out.
Oh, you even think if they put a different leader in?
I'm not voting for him again.
Wow.
Yeah. And I lean left. I lean liberal. Actually, I'm kind of fiscally conservative, and I believe in social responsibility. Mm-hmm. The old conservatives that used to be like that, I can sit and have lunch with them every day. Mm-hmm. But Trudeau's lost my confidence. This last gimmick about the GST, it's like that was just the cherry on top. That was not the cherry on top. That was the feather that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
I was already...
The straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, the straw. Yeah, I can mix all my metaphors
But there's
up.
that. Yeah, there was like sending out the check, and then having a GST holiday, like.
Yeah, no, it's just so transparently in a year where he's reporting a $60 billion deficit, right?
Oy, oy.
Like, come on,
Yeah,
come on, just don't stop playing games.
it's going to be really interesting. I guess it'd be so in the upcoming episodes. Anthony Rhodes going to pop in and see us, so looking forward to that and talk a little bit about his tenure. I'll be curious to see what he says, right? Like how much he can say, how much he will say when it comes to, what he sees. I'm sure he'll be, he's really steady Eddie kind of guy, right? He's not going to say anything disparaging about anybody.
Yeah, he had I think there's only 2 or 3 real blotches on his political career.
Mm-hmm. And
long gun registry and the
that was the one that cost him. I'd love to know that, like, if he could go back on that, like how if he would have done anything different when it came to that.
I think he probably would have.
That's when Jay Aspin won that election.
Yeah, like just to have that haunt you for the rest of your life that you lost to Jay. Right?
Yeah. So
hi Jay.
It's but I remember that night. It was like, wow, and it was Powassan that that really swung everything for him during that, and because it'll be really interesting to see what he has to say, what's happening in the future, how things are going to change, whether these tariffs will come in or not, whether what the government's just committed to $1.2 billion to, support, strengthening the border, which I didn't know we had like a lot of problems in our border.
The comparison to our border in Mexico when it comes to fentanyl is minuscule. I think it's like they can only catch like 40,000 pounds of it coming from Canada, and it's like hundreds of pounds and thousands of pounds coming through the Mexican border. So
right,
but they do have. I think they're really more concerned about people coming across the border. Not the fentanyl. I think that was just a bit of a red herring.
Yeah.
That they just want to clamp
Is there
up.
a lot of people that come through the border from Canada?
There have been different spots on the border where there was some issues. There was one out west, and then there
where the family froze to death on the border, and it was tragic.
Right? Like, so it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What about locally, though?
I think we should, make the border so stricter so Americans can't come up. It's so easy.
What about for us locally here? Like you've had, I find it interesting as I've listened to some of the other podcasts. Usually when you have someone from council in here, you'll ask them if they're running again.
Yes.
But we're like a couple of years out from that, right?
We're only a couple of years out from that.
Yeah.
And
why so soon?
Well, in the 4th year, they're useless. They don't do much except campaigning, right? And whatever their powder they're saving for approving stuff, it's and so there's only really a full year for them to put into get anything done, right?
Who do you think? Who in your opinion? There's going to
be a number of seats. That's the issue. I think there's going to be a high number of seats open.
Oh, that people won't run again.
Oh, yeah, like Doodlist or Mac Bain. I don't think he's running again.
Yeah, Mac always says that. He says every year that he's not going to run again.
Well, now he's got that good job with Phenom, right? So, doesn't he? Right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah?
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
And he's been, and he did say to me that he was running this time because he wanted that 20-year pin as a councillor, right? So I don't think he's running again.
Did he actually get a pin?
No.
Oh, okay.
Another metaphor. Badge, maybe they get a badge. I don't think Chris is running.
You did ask him though, and he didn't. He
month to month. He said at one point he said day to day, and then he's month to month. And I think it's. I don't think he will.
No, he's been doing a long time.
Yeah, he could if he's feeling like he wants to. He's got a lot of institutional knowledge now. He might come in handy. Who else won't be running? I don't think Mark King's running again, right? So there's 3 seats right there.
Will Jamie Lowry run again?
No, I don't think Jamie Lowry's running again. You didn't appreciate this particular so far. So there's 4 seats.
Yeah.
I don't think Sarah's running again.
Yeah.
She's
had a tough go, eh?
Yeah, it's a tough go, and lots going on, a lot of moving parts there. So there, 5 seats, right?
That's like half, right?
And well, who else? I think Lana will again. She's doing. Gary will again. I don't think Tanny's running again.
Come on.
No, but come on. Well, you can never count out Vraybosch out of a campaign, right? But I don't think so.
Huh. That's shocking then, if it was that many.
Well, that's my count, right?
Who has been your bright star on council? It's like, wow, they've really done a hell of a job that you've seen so far.
In the second year, I think Maggie has a little bit more proven herself a little bit more in my eyes.
Yeah.
And
she's smart. I like her. Yeah.
And I think Justine plays a good role.
Yeah.
Gary, even though he isn't as I see the role he wants to play, he's comfortable with it, and so I think he's a good guy on there.
Yeah,
for sure. So I'd like to see him on the team.
Yeah,
right. And I think Maggie can bring more to it. I'm not sure. I think she might be trying to run for mayor if she runs against Joanne.
Joanne's going to run, right? Joanne will run against Peter.
Well, I don't think Peter's running again.
What?
No, I don't think so.
Stop it. Really? Only one term?
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I just assumed he would.
From what I hear, he really didn't enjoy the first year at all. Right? So
it was a bumpy road. Yeah.
Some of my thoughts there are from what I heard in that first year. He seems to be smiling a little bit more now. Mm-hmm. He was cordial almost with me at the shovel, the groundbreaking.
Wow, that's great. It's because you were talking he was talking into your mitt.
I don't know if he knows that yet.
Dave put his mitt on the microphone as a windsock, and yeah.
Well, I offered it to Gord. Gord put it up there, and it kind of solved the issue. But
wow, that would let's just gaming it out. If Peter and he's put a lot of years in. He has grandkids. He has lots of different things. Lots of things he wants to do. Right. So if he decided not to do that, totally understand.
I may be wrong,
for
sure on that one, but I just.
But if he didn't, though, boy, the makeup, what you just said, the makeup of how...
He'd have a hard run against Maggie.
Oh, really?
I think so.
And do you think Joanne would run at the same time? If Maggie ran? I don't know what their relationship's like, but...
Well...
The only reason I would say that is because I think wouldn't like a Maggie and Joanne have similar...
A women's vote.
Similar votes.
Women's support vote.
So wouldn't it split kind of that vote?
Yep.
Against a Peter vote.
Yeah. I don't think it would be strategic if both of them ran.
Yeah. That's super interesting though, eh?
But Maggie's also recognizing that she's second term would give her more foundation for eventually running for mayor. So she may not. But I don't know. The funny thing is that when it comes down to that, from what I've noticed, is right when it comes down to the spring before the election, everybody's still not quite sure. Some people have put chess pieces and sort of started getting their groups together, but they're not going to. They're waiting to see exactly who's running. Right, and then they make their decision.
Right.
And so some people jump in when they think they can. Some people get fooled to run when they shouldn't. I think Sheldon Forget, for example, he was probably convinced that Al wasn't running that year.
Oh.
And then he went and ran, and then Al poked up and said, yeah, I'm running again. And so Sheldon missed his chance to get elected again.
Yeah. Super interesting. It's important. I feel the show we do here, the Echo Essentials podcast, to talk about community events and different things. Dave really, takes the ball and runs with this and brings the guests in and makes it all happen. I think it's important that we have these longer form discussions, and I think it's really important that We have some fun. We have some people in here. We talk about really important issues. We love hearing your feedback. Any great feedback you got this year? They're just like, that was a good one.
I had a couple people on numerous different podcasts get really excited about the just what we're doing.
Specifically, like counselors approach us. They listen, eh?
Well, I think it was really telling when Gary Gardner contacted me and said, "Hey, I really want to support you and be on there because I think what you guys are doing is a good thing."
Now, we did plow over Sweetman Gardens, so...
Yeah, but he got a hold of me before that happened, right? So it wasn't exactly public relations.
I'm joking, yeah.
What is this, our number 44 or 45?
47. Okay.
Right. Imagine that.
Yeah.
47 podcasts in a row.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Looking forward, as we wrap this up, looking forward to the new year coming up. We have some really good interviews on the way. I believe we're going to get Mary Davis in here from CMHA to talk a little bit about, I think there's some big announcements that are probably, by the time this is airing, will probably be out there. So we want to talk to Mary from CMHA, what's happening in the city.
I'd love to get Vic in. He said I can ask again, or his staff said I can ask again after the new year, so that would be nice.
I've had a couple of conversations with them about what I want to, I know you probably have some specific things. I really want to ask them about, especially at his level as a minister and what he does and the money involved and everything, about how they support things, how difficult it is to actually make change in a government. Because I know they throw money at, I shouldn't say, they invest our taxpayer money into things. But what controls does the government have to actually that money gets filtered down to the people on the front lines for whatever happens? I bet you it gets more into that complex side of things, right? Mm-hmm. He's told me a few different stories about just how bureaucracy works, how it can be, even at that level, it's like it can be like so frustrating. But it's like, okay, we're going to invest into this and we're going to make change. But how difficult it is when a big investment is made with whatever government, how it gets down to the front lines. And how they actually monitor that. I want to sort of have that kind of conversation, what he's learned from, being the mayor here, investing money in something. I don't know what it is. Let's say sewers. We're going to put more money into sewers. And how many sewers actually get fixed, right? Like how difficult that is. It's not, we think it's simple, but it's probably not.
I want to ask him about leadership campaigns and the politics around that within your own party, because he has some experience there.
Right. Oh, yeah, because he ran as a leader. Yeah, because I would think as, when you think about it, just because we've had a premier here, Mike Harris, how unusual that probably is, because you need to be like 416-905, probably area code, that you have kind of the horsepower behind you to be, get into a leadership situation.
And more so now than ever.
And more so now than ever. So how did Mike Harris back in the day become the leader of the party? That's actually a real good question. So we hope you've enjoyed the Echo Essentials podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Dave, you want to wrap it up?
Well, certainly want to remind you once more to like and share, but I want to hear your feedback and include it in the newsletter. The redesign has
looks great.
Yeah, good way to go about it. It actually gives you a chance to actually read a story about a podcast that hasn't aired yet for those that like to read, and I'm getting good feedback about that.
When do we see the results? You have in the new newsletter format that comes out on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Just go to northbayecho.ca, sign up for the newsletter. It comes right to your inbox. You have lots of surveys. When do we learn about surveys?
You have to, you find out the results when you vote.
Oh, so soon, So when I voted, there's one about Christmas. So
you'll see the percentages and stuff like that.
Seems like everybody's staying at home this year on Christmas from that survey.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different elements there. So please check out our newsletter and subscribe.
Thanks so much for joining us on this Echo Essentials podcast. I'm Scott Clark.
And I'm Dave Dale. And
make sure that, as Dave mentioned, like, subscribe, and we want to hear back from you. And you can also catch us on North Bay Cogeco, 100 on your dial. However that works. I think it's most people, 100 on your dial. You can watch us on Cogeco as well. We hope you've had a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a very Happy New Year.
It's Boxing Day. Stay off Lake Nipissing. There's a worm spell. It's not safe.